Oh, can't you see the little turtle dove?
It was exactly 2 years ago when a small group of us issued a call out to the world. We wished to see what a creative response to the climate and ecological emergency could be, and to give everyone the opportunity to express themselves. What followed was an outpouring of emotion, of grief, love, anger, and courage. Within 1 month, we received up to 1,000 letters from all walks of life and from all kinds of perspectives. People have continued to write and share their letters, finding solace in the community that it brings. Tonight, we're gathered to celebrate the launch of our paperback book, which is just a small collection of the letters we received, and also the launch of our campaign for the year. While many of us have been grieving the loss of loved ones, our freedom, our old lives, the climate and ecological emergency has continued to quietly cause devastation and remains the biggest long-term threat to our safety, our health, and our security. We are approaching dangerous climate tipping points. 150 species are going extinct every day. How do we come to terms with this crisis? How do we stop ourselves from getting stuck in despair?
It is time for our flesh and our dreams to be tried. It is time for us to undergo the greatest initiation that we have undergone together as a species. And it's an initiation of fire that brings us humility and illumination. We will not transform ourselves and be worthy of this fabled earth if we aren't raised up in some way. But we are in an age of catastrophes. We initiated the catastrophes. Dear Earth, look kindly upon the folly that is the human race. Teach us with your silent wisdom how to live again, how to be simple again, and how to rise to the greatness and sense of universal justice that is our divine inheritance. Yours lovingly, Ben Okri.
What signs of healing and restoration can you see as happening as a result of this current initiation?
I would say these letters are signs. The responses of young people throughout the world are signs. A whole new generation are passionate and astounded that we've come to this pass and passionate about wanting to do something about it. We have a new government. We have the Biden administration in America, which in itself is a moment of great hope itself, because America makes a great difference to things like this. So there are signs of hope. But we need to accelerate that, and we have to accelerate the change, the adaptation, the transformation that is absolutely necessary right now. Events like this, I think, can be extremely instrumental.
This therapist, I said to her, I love my mother. She is amazing. She's an earth mother. She baked and she cooked and she made us and she held us. And she looked at me, this therapist, and she nodded in that way they have. Mothers have many sides, she said. They're not just benign. Mothers can turn. Be jagged, saw-toothed, unpredictable, furious, uncontainable, unreliable. Mothers can turn.
You call 2019 the year of fracture. And after the year we've had of 2020, I wonder what you feel or hope might be the year 2021. Does a word come to mind?
I'd hope that it could be the year of healing, and I'm holding that in my heart, but there's a lot to heal. And there's a long way to go. I'll just say healing and hope for that.
Thank you, Anna, so much.
Thank you.
Well, Letters to the Earth uniquely brings together novelists and poets with politicians and nurses and scientists too. And we have a few climate scientists in the book, and I'm thrilled that next up we have Professor Stefan Rhamstorf. And Stefan will be reading his piece, False Alarm.
Sometimes I have this dream. I'm going for a hike and discover a remote farmhouse on fire. Children are calling for help from the upper windows. So I call the fire brigade. But they don't come because some mad person keeps telling them that it is a false alarm. The situation is getting more and more desperate, but I can't convince the firemen to get going. I cannot wake up from this nightmare. By now, about 30 years, I have been, in addition to doing my scientific research, I have been dealing with climate skeptics, or you should really call them climate deniers. And that's what I'm referring to, obviously, with these people that ring the fire brigade and tell them not to come, where we are in urgent need, of course, for action. And it's delayed again and again by lobby interests. I think art is incredibly important because as scientists, we always have to be very sober. We have to present the facts, the data, curves, and so on. And the psychologists are telling us that this doesn't actually reach the people. You have to reach people on an emotional level in order to really motivate them to make the changes that are needed.
Our guest is Michaela Loach. Now, Michaela Loach is a climate justice and anti-racism activist, co-host of the Yikes podcast, and a fourth-year medical student at the University of Edinburgh. So I'm wondering, what do you think the pandemic is trying to tell us right now? Is there a message in particular that you think we need to hear or that is coming through in this particular moment?
I think that during this time, I've realized how often my own privilege has made me wish to go back to this state that was actually harmful in the first place, and how instead we should ask for more and we should use this as an opportunity to imagine a completely new future, and that can be really, really beautiful. And then also from a climate perspective, looking at how we've responded to the pandemic, and especially being someone who has been on the front lines, I guess, in many ways. And I was vaccinated very quickly, and seeing how we've managed to make a vaccine from the start to the end in such a short space of time shows that when there's the willpower, we can create significant change and we can make huge things happen that we would have thought were never possible. And so when it comes to the climate crisis, we can have so much hope that these solutions that we talk about are well within our reach. All we need is the willpower, and we can create change, and we can kind of create this new world that we want to make. I am delighted to be introducing the wonderful Farhana Yamin. So Fahana is an environmental lawyer, author, and activist. She has advised leaders and countries on climate negotiations, law, and strategy for 30 years. She is widely credited with getting the goal of net zero emissions by mid-century into the Paris Agreement.
Something magical is happening too. Millions of ordinary people, especially our children, are rebelling against the old ways of thinking, ways that led humanity to death, destruction, and the glorification of domination of nature. We finally understood that everything and everyone is connected. We've understood that ending domination of nature goes hand in hand with tackling all forms of domination and hierarchy. The struggle to honor you, our shared home, and to achieve ecological balance and justice goes hand in hand with achieving racial, gender, sexual, and economic equality. These struggles are linked, and the movements to achieve them need to join up and overturn the prevailing order. Bear with us, dear Earth. The age of restoration and respect is almost here. So many of us are walking through that portal of a better world. We've rejected that, and I feel that this interconnection between the different movements, which were operating in very different sort of silos and focusing on their own struggle without understanding or recognizing, or just being bogged down by the day-to-day politics, turf funding, all of that stuff that goes on. You know, they've really understood and have come together, which doesn't mean that, you know, it's all game, set and match over. It isn't. It is a bit like tennis. It's right till the last point, you know, there is everything, you know, to play for.
If I'm honest with myself, what I truly feel is love. Hear me out. I don't mean any simple, sappy kind of love. I don't mean anything cute or tame. I mean living, breathing, heart-beating love, wild love. This love is not a noun. She is an action verb. She can shoot stars into the sky. She can spark a movement. She can sustain a revolution. I love this beautiful, mysterious, complicated planet that we get to call home. The planet who had the audacity to burst with life from her boreal crown to her icy toes at the South Pole. I love her caves and her valleys and her rivers and her oceans. I love the majesty of her larger-than-life elephants and whales and rhinos and lions. I love the elegance and enigma of all the different kinds of bats, even the bats who eat other bats. I love the unapologetic sass of butterflies and hummingbirds and coral reefs and the tear-jerking aroma of flowers that bloom below the equator. But this love is strong enough to break through the terror. She's hot enough to burn through the anger and turn into fury. She can shake you out of your despair and propel you into the front of the battlefield. It's a love that can also, even in the teeth of the most insurmountable odds, give me hope, if I'm brave enough to accept it. I've seen her looking back at me in the eyes of some of the bravest climate justice warriors I have ever met, and I can feel the tickling tingle of maybe, just maybe, we'll be okay.
So next is a video that we asked one of our authors to prepare for us, and it conveys the love he has for nature.
Dear Mr. Walnut Tree, I would like to apologise on the behalf of mankind for ruining your beautiful earth. I would also like to thank you for holding strong and even managing to hold my weight year after year. Thank you for being such an easy to climb tree, and thank you for being there whenever I have needed you. To conclude, I would like to say don't die, carry on living bold and strong for as long as you possibly can. Yours sincerely, your climber.
So I'd like to introduce one of our authors, Isabel Bruning, to join me now. She's an educator who's worked all over the country for a wide selection of well-known environmental charities. And instead of reading her letter, we're going to talk about her work, bringing children into the wild.
You see a really clear divide in the children who are used to having the opportunity to be in nature and kind of aren't afraid to get their hands dirty. And then those children that really haven't had that at all. And yeah, I think just that chance to access nature is so important.
I don't want to scare you, but I'm scared that we've hurt the planet we all live on. I hope you're angry at us. I hope you resent us for not doing enough and that we've made an enemy of your future. Others can't face it or feel powerless to protest or actually think it's a fight we're made to feel guilty about. That guilt is because we're not rich, Max. We don't live in posh houses, we don't speak proper, and we certainly don't shop at Waitrose. It's called being working class, but that's a vague term. What I mean is that our mums and dads work all day to make sure we have food and clothes and telly, but that's about it. And that's all day and every day for those basic needs. The ones fighting and telling our mums and dads off for not fighting, a lot of them have lived in posh houses and have been on lots of holidays. I'm being a bit silly, but they're normal people too. They can't help that they've had the accent of luxury and privilege, private healthcare, because their great-great-great-great-great-grandparents owned all the land. The norms would find this preachy, and under any other circumstance, I'd be bright red with embarrassment. I'm even writing such things. I love you. I love the planet, and I love humanity. And I want to have hope that we'll survive what we've done to it. We have to act on it. We have to talk about it. We have to protest. We have to. I don't know what else to say other than I'm off to try and help. All my love, your Uncle Simon.
Thanks, Simon, so much. Let's show the book again. We haven't really seen it yet. There we go. There we go. You speak initially of guilt. That's what I hear initially, of being made to feel shame by people for whom action might be easy because of their privilege. And there's
definitely, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a sense of anger there, and that's justifiably so. And perhaps part of the universal justice that Ben Okri spoke about in his letter as well. But it sounds like the love the love for your nephew led you to overcome your embarrassment at writing this letter. And maybe the love for your nephew has led you to take action as well. I'd love to hear if that's the case. And I'd really like to ask you about this love. It's something that Mary spoke of as well, the power of love.
Yeah.
Do you think love is enough to break down the structural inequalities that you speak of?
Yeah, so much more than hate. I realised when I was angry at our politicians for their inaction and their stupidity and selfishness and short-termism. I wasn't getting anywhere. But as soon as I thought about the love of our planet, of nature, of our brothers and sisters and the human family and the animal world, that gives you so much more energy to engage, because there's nothing worse than people, you know, at a party, when we used to have parties, someone up and go, do you know what, the sixth great mass extinction, people just turn off. But if you say to someone, well, you know, very soon you're not going to have that, you're not going to be able to hug your daughter outside because the air will be choked, you know, it's more about the things you love. Like you said at the beginning of this, a couple of years ago, there was nowhere near this level of conversation about the climate crisis. It's something that's, you know, even like the Daily Express has headlines worried about climate change now. I mean, what a change in such a short period of time.
They are wanting to tell us something, the future people, the people of whom we are the ancestors, yet they are the wiser. They are wanting to tell us that what we do now matters. We see you, they say, standing on the shore with 500 years of industry and environmental wreckage and slavery and torture at your back, gasping under its weight with only the vast Black Sea in front of you. We see you. We see you holding the crumbling world in one hand and the germinating seed of life in the other.
I'm really wanting to welcome Benedict into the space as well, to join Claire and myself. Benedict, we saw a video of your letter to your walnut tree, and I just want to share with you, we've had a lovely comment come in from someone watching. Phil Richmond said that he loved that video of yours, Benedict, and he says, if we could all write letters to our trees, what a better world we would live in.
People think that it's hard to be good for the environment, and whenever we see on the news anything to do with climate change, polar bears are always on the front cover, and we find it hard to believe because, like, I don't know many people that have seen a polar bear in their life, so we can't really relate, but hedgehogs in this country is like our equivalent. Since 2000, we've lost a third of the UK's hedgehogs and 90% since World War II.
Benedict, thank you so much for your message. It's you're right to give us our own message from our own species here. When I say we here in the UK, the hedgehogs, it's an incredibly important message to hear of the species on our doorsteps that are suffering, and to know that there is hope in the actions that we can take, as you said. And so we all have a role to play. Thanks, Benedict. Well, that brings us to a close for this evening. We've discovered that for many, putting pen to paper can be a first step to discover what's important for you, how the earth might speak through you, how you can speak and act on the earth's behalf. So to everyone watching and to all of our authors, keep writing your letters. Write them and share them with others. Send them to people in positions of power. Open up vital conversations about what we do next and what's to come. What the future can and must look like, and the future must begin and does begin now. Letters to the Earth is out today. All proceeds go towards continued campaigning for environmental justice. And you can go to bookshop.org or our website, letterstotheearth.com, where you can also find out more about our campaign this year and how you can be involved. Keep connected via our hashtag Letters to the Earth, and you can share your letters through that hashtag too. So finally, I'd like to say a massive thank you to all of our authors. I think you're all there. We can see you all, and everyone at Culture Declares who have supported us in hosting this event this evening. And I will leave you with our trailer for the book to play us all out. Thank you, everyone, and good night.
Our Earth. When I stop and listen, I can hear your ice caps melting. It's a bit like free-running dominoes, like paddling bathwater with one's toes, like an elongated sigh.
Sea levels are rising. Forest fires are scorching.
What words describe this crisis? How can we process what is happening to the world?
Dear mortals.
Dear fellow citizens.
Dear artists and writers.
Dear Earth.
I want to tell you how amazing you are, beautiful and funny.
Letters to the Earth is the beginning of a new story. These are letters of love, loss, hope and action from all of us.
You may think that you are simply one small positive droplet that can't do anything. But together, you form a sea in an ocean. That sea can stir a storm. That sea can make a change.